At my brother's wedding, they humiliated me. They seated me alone in the kitchen. I wore my $30 million contract like armor. No one thought I would fight back. The whispers started, sharp and cruel around me. Family smiles felt fake, hiding disappointment and shame. I realized my worth didn't matter to them. Their joy was built on my embarrassment. I took a deep breath, heart racing fast. Right there, I canceled their massive deal. Silence fell, heavier than the room's chandeliers. Every eye turned, shocked by my sudden power. The entire wedding froze. Whispers stopped cold. I proved who truly controlled the room, and the truth about respect would be taught. What I did next changed everything forever. At my brother's wedding, I froze. They seated me cold, far away. The kitchen lights flickered over polished counters. Whispers circled, sharp, slicing through me. I wore my $30 million contract like armor. No one expected me to stand strong. Mom glanced at me, eyes flickering briefly. Her silence felt heavier than words could. Dad's frown was quiet but cutting. I gripped my clutch, knuckles turning white. Every smile around me seemed fake, hollow. The laughter echoed, but I felt nothing. I saw my sister across the hall. She whispered encouragement I barely heard. My heart raced as I plotted quietly. Every insult, every glance, fuel for fire. I wouldn't just stand here, I decided. Tonight, they would all learn my worth. The wedding hall sparkled with gold decorations. Crystal chandeliers threw light on their faces. I walked slowly, deliberately, toward the exit. Some turned, questioning my sudden movement. I smiled faintly, hiding the rage inside. The room buzzed, unaware of my plan. I thought about my countless late nights. The deals I had won, quietly alone. Sacrifices they never noticed, never appreciated. Their judgment had stung, but fueled me. Now, the time for silent revenge arrived. Not cruelty, only truth, my weapon tonight. I paused outside the hall's grand doors. Hearing their laughter, shallow, forced, meaningless, I pictured the looks on their faces. What would they think when reality hit? I stepped forward, calm but burning inside. The moment was mine, carefully orchestrated, perfect. I found the right moment during speeches. Guests were distracted by champagne and chatter. I reached for the folder in hand. Contracts ready, signatures prepared to cancel everything. Silence fell on me, but I stayed calm. My heart pounded, anticipation sharp as knives. I glanced around, everyone oblivious to threat. The wedding photographer captured the glowing chandeliers. I smiled politely, then pushed all aside. The whispers started, soft, uncertain, curious glances. I stood tall, as if nothing mattered. Inside, my plan unfolded with precise patience. I imagined their faces when truth emerged. Mom's shock, Dad's quiet disbelief, sister proud. I pressed send, watched the contracts vanish instantly. Phones buzzed, whispers turned into shocked murmurs. Eyes widened, jaws dropped, reality settling slowly. The room froze, not knowing how to react. I stayed calm, letting silence speak volumes. Every insult, every slight, now confronted me. I watched unflinching as power shifted subtly. I didn't shout, didn't scream, just observed. Their laughter died, replaced by stunned respect. I realized revenge doesn't need loud voices. The room waited, unsure what I'd do next. Guests murmured, some angry, some shocked, confused. The band paused, unsure how to proceed. I felt vindicated, quiet strength rising inside. Tonight, I wasn't just a guest anymore. I became the truth they couldn't ignore. And that's when I learned a lesson. Power isn't always loud, it's precise. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words ever. Their judgment had prepared me, sharpened my mind, and the world would finally see my worth. Not arrogance, only truth delivered with calm. The hall felt colder after my move. Whispers floated, curiosity sharp as knives. I could hear the faint click of heels. Guests turned, unsure who had interrupted celebrations. I gripped the folder, my hands steady, every eye on me, frozen in shock. My sister gave a tiny, proud smile. She understood what this moment truly meant. Mom's lips parted, disbelief shadowing her eyes. Dad's frown deepened, his silence more cutting. I felt calm, like a storm inside. Everything I had built now felt alive. I saw the waiter approach uncertainly, hesitant. Glasses clinked, unaware of the tension brewing. I pressed the send button on my phone. Contracts, deals, everything all canceled in an instant. Phones buzzed loudly, murmurs turned into chaos. The room froze and everyone stared at me. A cousin whispered, "Did she just do that?" I nodded slightly, letting suspense fill the room. Some guests gasped, others stared in disbelief. The DJ paused, unsure whether to continue music. My heart pounded, but my voice stayed calm. Revenge doesn't need noise, only perfect timing. I watched my brother shift, embarrassed, panicked. He hadn't expected me to fight back. All those years of dismissing me mattered now. The $30 million contract wasn't just money, it was power. I held it tightly, knowing it meant control. Tonight the table had finally turned completely dot. Mom finally spoke, her voice shaky, trembling. I didn't realize. You worked so hard. Her eyes glistened, a mixture of guilt. Dad didn't say a word, but nodded slowly. Even he understood this was long overdue. Their respect finally earned, wasn't given freely. I felt a strange wave of satisfaction rise. Not joy, but calm, quiet, hard-earned justice. I didn't need applause, only their realization. The whispers grew louder, tension filling every corner. Everyone now knew I wasn't just a guest. I had become the center of attention. Subtly, my brother tried to speak, stumbled through excuses. The words fell flat, meaningless against cold truth. I simply smiled, letting silence do its work. No one could argue with facts in hand. The room buzzed with confusion and admiration alike. Even my distant relatives looked at me differently. I felt my sister brush my hand gently. "You did it," she whispered, pride in her tone. I nodded, barely moving, letting her joy grow. I glanced at my parents, absorbing their reactions. They finally saw what I had always been. Not just their daughter, but a force to reckon. The photographer snapped shots, capturing my calm demeanor. Every angle, every face frozen in stunned silence. The chandelier light glinted off my determined eyes. I realized this was more than just revenge. It was proving my worth silently and perfectly. Tonight, their judgment and dismissals were paid back. I walked back slowly, toward my table, composed. The buzz of whispers followed my every step. Guests stared at me, unsure how to react. I smiled faintly, letting their confusion linger longer. I understood finally respect cannot be demanded outright. It has to be earned quietly, deliberately, perfectly. I reached my chair, sat with calm posture. The world felt tense, every eye still on me. I knew they would talk about this for years, but I didn't need their approval anymore. I had proven myself in my own way. Their shock, my quiet triumph, felt undeniably satisfying. And in that moment, realized clearly, power is quiet, precise, not loud or reckless. Revenge is most effective when it's patient. Sometimes standing still, letting truth speak, suffices. Tonight, my lesson was earned, not given. And everyone would remember how I reclaimed control. The room remained still, tension thickening instantly. Whispers turned into murmurs. Eyes darted nervously. I could feel every stare like fire. My brother's face was pale, lips pressed tightly. He hadn't expected me to fight publicly. Years of arrogance now crumbled, thin and fragile. Guests shifted uncomfortably, unsure how to behave. The air smelled of perfume and nervous panic. I kept my posture calm, almost regal. Each step I took echoed like soft thunder. I felt a strange satisfaction, cold and quiet. This was justice, precise, earned, and deliberate. My sister leaned close, whispering encouragement, trembling slightly. "You showed them finally. They'll remember this forever." I nodded subtly, acknowledging the small victory. My parents watched quietly, their eyes shining with pride. Mom's lips twitched into a faint approving smile. Dad's silence spoke volumes, louder than any words. The waiter froze mid-step, tray balanced unsteadily. Guests glanced at him, then back to me. I could sense the tension, thick and suffocating. The photographer continued snapping, capturing each moment perfectly. I felt as if time itself had slowed. Every expression, every gasp was frozen in place. My brother stammered, trying to regain his dignity. His voice cracked, arguments falling flat like autumn leaves. I simply raised an eyebrow, letting silence dominate. No words were necessary. The truth was clear. Years of underestimating me had finally ended tonight. I had turned whispers into awe and respect. I watched a cousin clutch her pearls nervously. She's really done it, she muttered softly. I smiled faintly, letting the admiration simmer quietly. Even distant relatives now looked at me differently. The contrast was striking: fear, AWA, and curiosity. I realized how easily perception can shift instantly. My sister tapped my shoulder, eyes shining brightly. Your patience paid off. They can't deny it now. I exhaled slowly, letting the weight lift slightly. But the moment wasn't just about revenge alone. It was about proving myself, reclaiming rightful respect. Tonight, my silence and precision spoke louder than words. I glanced around the hall, noting their reactions carefully. My brother's arrogance had left him exposed completely. Every snide remark, every slight, now meaningless. The room's energy shifted, subtly, unmistakably, in my favor. I had turned humiliation into opportunity, chaos into triumph. This was my quiet, undeniable, perfect victory. I noticed Mom's hand tremble slightly, barely perceptible. She had longed for this recognition silently for years. Dad's frown softened, replaced by a glimmer of pride. I understood finally they had always seen me silently. Tonight, they were witnesses to my patience paying off. Justice didn't scream. It arrived quietly, deliberately, flawlessly. A soft gasp rose from the crowd suddenly. Someone whispered, "She's in total control now." The words hung heavy in the charged air. I let them linger, allowing tension to settle slowly. Patience, strategy, and courage had become my allies. This night, my actions spoke louder than any words. The room's atmosphere thickened, expectation heavy on everyone. My brother's humiliation burned quietly in his eyes. He tried to salvage pride, but the damage remained. I leaned back slightly, keeping calm, letting power grow. The subtle smirks of satisfaction crossed my sister's face. She knew this was just the beginning. Quietly, I scanned the room, capturing every shocked expression. Even long-standing relatives couldn't hide their astonishment. Every whisper, every murmur reinforced my quiet dominance. I realized how swiftly balance of power shifts. Tonight, lessons would be remembered long after the lights faded. I had turned a moment of disrespect into authority. I sipped my drink slowly, calm and poised. Every eyes still followed me with newfound respect. I felt the weight of my patience settling in. Revenge had been quiet, precise, and perfectly executed. The entire room had witnessed my subtle, unwavering control. I knew they would remember tonight for a lifetime. The whispers didn't stop even after I sat. I could feel the weight of every stare. My brother shifted uneasily, avoiding my eyes completely. He tried to smile, but it looked hollow. The guests sensed tension, unsure how to react. Even the waiters moved carefully. Footsteps soft and deliberate. I noticed Aunt Linda's fingers tapping impatiently, nervously. Her glance flicked to Dad, then back to me. Mom's eyes stayed fixed on my subtle movements. There was pride hidden beneath worry, silent and deep. Every family member seemed frozen, caught in uncertainty. It was as if the world had tilted sideways. My brother's wife leaned forward, a smirk faintly appearing. She thought she could still control the narrative. Her whispers aimed to discredit me quietly, strategically. I turned slightly, catching the edge of her glare. I let a small smile slip, calm and measured. The power in silence is stronger than words. The cake was served, but no one dared speak. I held the plate steady, maintaining composure flawlessly. Each action drew attention, emphasizing patience over rashness. Guests exchanged glances, puzzled, caught in quiet tension. The photographer's shutter clicked rapidly, capturing every subtle gesture. I felt the intensity, adrenaline mixing with quiet triumph. My sister leaned in, whispering softly but firmly. They thought they controlled everything, but look now. I nodded without speaking, letting silence speak volumes. Even Dad's usual frown softened slightly, almost imperceptible. Mom's lips twitched, barely holding back a proud smile. I felt their support quietly fueling my resolve. My brother's ego was unraveling piece by piece. Every word he had said earlier crumbled silently. The guests noticed his discomfort, eyes tracking every movement. I could almost hear the unspoken regret in the air. Years of underestimating me were collapsing visibly tonight. Even subtle gestures now carried immense weight and significance. I decided it was time to act subtly. I rose slowly, letting the room follow my movements. Every eye tracked me, curiosity and tension mixing. I picked up the family gift, unwrapping it deliberately. A soft gasp escaped from the crowd, surprised and quiet. Inside was a card, revealing the truth they ignored. The card's words weren't loud, but powerfully sharp. It exposed dishonesty, small betrayals, and hidden selfishness. Even my brother flinched, his confidence cracking visibly. The room's energy shifted, uncertainty transforming into awe. Guests whispered quietly, eyes wide, astonishment clear on faces. The truth had arrived subtly, leaving a strong impact. My sister watched my every move with quiet admiration. "You've done more than I imagined, carefully and wisely." I nodded slightly, absorbing the magnitude of this moment. Patience, strategy, and courage had delivered undeniable justice. Even small gestures now carried the weight of revelation. The night was no longer about celebration, but reflection. I glanced at Dad, his jaw tight, eyes focused. He had always believed in fairness, silently supporting me. Mom's hand brushed my sister's, signaling quiet approval. I felt a sense of calm amidst the chaos. Every action, every subtle move mattered more than noise. Tonight, lessons were being etched permanently into memory. The room grew quieter, tension hanging thick in air. My brother tried to recover, words faltering mid-sentence. I tilted my head, letting silence dominate strategically. Guests leaned forward subtly, sensing the unraveling drama. Every slight gesture, every glance became a narrative. The night's events had become a subtle performance. The photographer captured my calm, composed, precise movements. I felt a strange power in maintaining quiet authority. Even those previously hostile now watched with restrained respect. The truth had emerged slowly, like a quiet storm. Every insult, every disregard was now visible to all. I realized quiet patience is the loudest revenge. My brother's wife looked shocked, her smirk fading entirely. She realized her manipulations were transparent, ineffective tonight. The subtle exposure of truth left her defensive, quiet. The crowd's attention shifted fully to me now. Every gaze carried a mixture of awe and disbelief. I understood finally, power comes from composure and patience. The family began to murmur quietly among themselves. Even long-standing relatives seemed stunned, reconsidering previous judgments. I could feel the balance of power shifting subtly. Mom's eyes lingered on me with silent pride. Dad's gaze was approving, yet cautious, acknowledging my subtle victory. Every element of this night had reinforced my quiet authority. I took a slow breath, heart steady, calm. The room's atmosphere was thick with awe and tension. Whispers of admiration mingled with lingering shock, quietly evident. I felt satisfaction, not in cruelty, but rightful justice. The night had transformed from humiliation into subtle triumph. Even minor gestures now carried immense narrative power. The cake cutting approached, tension still suspended in air. I remained poised, letting eyes track every measured movement. Guests watched, unsure how the evening would unfold completely. The subtle exposure of truth had left them speechless. Patience, observation, and precision had created undeniable respect. Tonight, I had turned insult into empowerment and dominance. I stood there, heart pounding, hands trembling slightly. Every eye in the room remained glued to me. The air felt heavy, thick with anticipation and tension. I had waited years for this precise moment carefully. Patience had been my weapon. Silence my subtle armor. Every slight movement now carried the weight of justice. I slowly lifted my head, scanning the room deliberately. My brother's jaw had tightened, his ego visibly cracking. The whispers that had plagued me now fell silent. I felt power in composure, strength in my quiet. The guests leaned forward, sensing the climax unfolding naturally. Even my parents, sitting far across, seemed quietly anxious. Mom's hands rested together, fingers intertwined, hiding emotion carefully. Dad's eyes were unwavering, calm yet intensely observant, watching. I reached into the envelope I had brought discreetly. It contained the truth, meticulously compiled, nothing left hidden. Every contract, every email, every unspoken manipulation documented carefully. I held it like a sword, slicing through deceit silently. The room's tension became palpable, each second stretching endlessly. My brother swallowed hard, lips moving but no words forming. His wife glanced nervously, realizing the tables had shifted entirely. I cleared my throat, letting the silence magnify my presence. Everything you've done, all the lies and deceit. I paused deliberately, letting my words sink slowly in. They are here in black and white, visible to everyone. The envelope was passed to the head of family quietly. I scanned every page, realization dawning painfully, slowly. The room's energy shifted, shock turning into quiet disbelief. Whispers erupted softly, almost like a low hum of tension. People who had underestimated me now looked at me differently. Respect replaced amusement. Admiration replaced subtle judgment silently. The power balance in the room had shifted unmistakably. Even my brother's smug smirk had completely faded away. He realized his dominance had been nothing but fragile illusion. I had turned humiliation into empowerment with careful precision. I took a deep breath, letting the moment settle gradually. No anger, no shouting, only quiet authority emanated from me. Mom's eyes softened, tears glinting like sunlight on water. Dad's nod was subtle, approval wrapped in quiet pride. My sister hugged me, whispering softly, "You were brilliant." I smiled faintly, feeling validation not in words but presence. The family had witnessed the strength of patience and resolve. My brother finally spoke, voice tight, strained, barely audible. I didn't realize. His words faltered, incomplete, broken. I shook my head slightly, letting silence speak volumes instead. The room held its collective breath, every gesture meaningful now. Even the relatives who had judged harshly were silent, watching. Power had shifted from arrogance to truth, subtly but undeniably. This evening had become a testament to quiet justice achieved. I folded my hands, maintaining composure, observing reactions carefully. Every whisper, every glance, every tremor of recognition mattered immensely. I had demonstrated strength, not with rage, but strategy and calm. Humiliation had been transformed into empowerment, carefully, deliberately, flawlessly. Guests now looked at me with awe, respect, subtle astonishment. I had learned the ultimate lesson of quiet dominance silently. Patience, observation, and timing were far more potent than anger. The photographer captured every subtle movement, framing silent authority. Even the smallest gestures became significant, communicating volumes without words. I could feel the room's energy bend subtly to me. Every detail mattered, my posture, my gaze, my silence intentional. The very atmosphere had shifted, power quietly but firmly claimed. Mom's hand brushed mine, her pride unspoken yet undeniable clearly. Dad's eyes met mine, conveying approval and deep. Silent pride. My brother's wife stared, realization dawning painfully, slowly, clearly. All her manipulations, her subtle attempts at control exposed publicly. Her arrogance crumbled silently, leaving only shock and stunned disbelief. The guests sensed the reversal of fortune, quiet but absolute. Even the wedding planners seemed to pause, taking notice carefully. The room's attention had shifted completely toward me, commanding respect. I realized authority was never loud, but quietly undeniable. I opened my lips to speak, voice steady, deliberate, calm. This isn't about revenge or anger, or petty humiliation tonight. It's about truth, fairness, and letting everyone see reality clearly. My brother's attempts at dominance had been based on lies entirely. The room absorbed every word, each syllable weighted with precision. Guests leaned forward subtly, captivated by my quiet strength entirely. This moment was my declaration, subtle yet profoundly impactful, completely. I let a small smile show, not of malice. It was satisfaction from truth, patience, strategy, and calm endurance. No need for shouting, no need for public confrontation loudly. The lesson had been delivered quietly, powerfully, elegantly. Even minor gestures conveyed authority, silently but unmistakably apparent. Mom's tears glimmered, unspoken approval shining through her pride. Dad's nod affirmed the victory of patience and righteous strategy. The wedding continued. But the atmosphere was forever changed subtly. Guests were no longer just observers. They were witnesses to justice. I had proven strength without malice, authority without aggression, clearly. Every action, every choice, every small gesture mattered deeply now. My brother and his wife had learned their place silently. I felt relief, not vengeance, satisfaction, not cruelty, subtly. The evening had become a quiet triumph of character. Later, as guests left, whispers still followed quietly, softly. The room held memories of subtle power and clever justice. I walked slowly, each step deliberate, feeling calm dominance. My parents followed, pride in their eyes, silent approval evident. I realized life rewards patience, strategy, and quiet resilience often. Power is not in yelling, but in subtle control. And that's when I understood silence is the loudest answer.